In the Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z, audiences learned of Dr. Gero, or Gero in the English dub, a mad scientist who once worked for the Red Ribbon Army and created their powerful android warriors. Despite Goku destroying the military force and its leadership, Dr. Gero survived and went on to create the most powerful androids yet. Artificial humans who, in the absence of Goku, terrorized the Earth and destroyed all of our heroes. However, one question that fans have had ever since this arc first transpired is how exactly did Dr. Gero create androids who are not only capable of defeating the Earthlings, but also more powerful than Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe, and the legendary Super Saiyans at the time. This is something that many have claimed totally shattered their verisimilitude or suspension of disbelief during the arc, and diminished the impact and significance of the power of all of the characters that we had seen and their training up until that point. But is that actually true? Or perhaps are people simply not looking into this closely enough and getting too caught up in the presentation rather than the substance of the event? Well, let's get into that topic right now. Now, I think the crux of this argument and this question in general really boils down to most people underestimating the humans and their technological progress. I mean, just take a look at the history of technology that we see in the Dragon Ball franchise, particularly on planet Earth. Something that's been referred to a number of times by different alien species as being a backwater or undeveloped planet. And yet, despite that, they have incredible technology that we've seen since the beginning of the Dragon Ball story. Like, for example, faster-than-light spaceships, which can traverse a galaxy in less than a week, as we saw during the Frieza arc, when Goku went in Dr. Brief's spaceship that took him from Earth to Namek, a planet that was in another galaxy, which would be many light years away. And yet humans in Dragon Ball were capable of creating and also reverse engineering alien technology that would allow them to do this just as quickly and actually faster than the Namekian spaceship that Kami came to the Earth in. Additionally, we also see things such as the gravity room, a room that can manipulate gravity to being hundreds of times that of the Earth, something straight out of the realm of science fiction that we're not able to do in our own world. And it doesn't seem like any of the other alien species in the Dragon Ball world have been capable of doing this either. The same thing with creating a dragon radar, which allows the user to track down magical items not only across the Earth, but also in space, such as the Super Dragon Radar, which we see Bulma creating and then using in the Universe 6 tournament arc of Dragon Ball Super. And naturally, as the Universal Anthem says, space is vast. So tracking those down in space becomes significantly harder than ever tracking anything down on Earth. And not only that, but when we're on the topic of massive things, Dr. Brief and the scientists on Earth were able to create capsule technology, which allows them to compress matter, be it food, water, houses, planes, or even people, down into a small pill-sized container that barely weighs anything at all, which is an incredible feat considering the fact that all of that mass within the structure should naturally weigh pretty much the same amount as it did when it was at full size. And yet people can carry around entire cases filled with capsules that barely weigh anything at all. But of course, the most impressive thing that the humans have created up until this point is the time machine, which, as its name implies, allows people to travel to the future or the past, which in turn creates an entirely new multiverse with each timeline, depending upon how far back they go in time and what actions are taken once there. Something I'll probably discuss in depth at some point in the future. This is a technology that practically no one else in the entire franchise has really been capable of achieving other than on Earth, with the exception of the Universe 12 time traveler, who is only really referenced once in an offhand comment, and then never brought back up again. But on Earth, not only did Bulma create this incredible technology, but so too did the scientist Omori in the Jocko manga, which takes place before the main Dragon Ball story, although his only really stopped time as opposed to actually traveling through it. So really, when you think about it, if the humans can do all of these things, then why is it so difficult to believe that one of the most brilliant scientists in the history of the world could create robots and cyborgs stronger than Frieza or even the Super Saiyans? But that's only the scientific potential of the humans. What about their potential for strength? Well, as we've seen throughout the franchise, particularly from Dragon Ball Z and into Dragon Ball Super especially, the human fighters have grown vastly more powerful than even Dr. Gero could have imagined when he was creating the androids, with characters like Krillin being able to push Goku into his Super Saiyan form after Goku absorbed the power of Super Saiyan God, trained with an angel, and went through all of the various fights and other specialized training throughout the course of the franchise. And the other humans aren't really that far behind Krillin either, with all of them at this point likely being far more powerful than the androids were during the Cell Saga, and possibly able to beat every single character in Dragon Ball Z, including the most powerful fighters from the Buu Saga and even the movies. Now, whether or not you chalk that up to bad power scaling, or just the incredible potential of growth and strength of the humans, I think that it really speaks for itself, especially when you compare humans to all of the others throughout the universe, and how they're able to keep up with and surpass many of the most powerful races that we've seen up until this point. And despite the fact that most of Frieza's forces, who are made up of the strongest warriors from throughout all of the different worlds that he had conquered and explored, didn't really even understand the concept of training or connecting their mind, body, and spirit and controlling their power, all of the humans were capable of doing that since Dragon Ball, and have only grown better at it over time. So it's possible that Dr. Gero, when examining the other fighters, and then androids 17 and 18, was able to find a way to bring out their potential to their maximum, at least at that time, while also augmenting them with other kind of organic components, and additionally giving them perpetual energy, which is also incredibly innovative technology since our own scientists in the real world have been trying to figure that out for ages. In fact, creating free or perpetual energy actually violates the laws of thermodynamics, which are some of the fundamental laws that our entire universe operates under. So again, if Dr. Gero was able to create something like that, does it make sense for him to also make androids and robots that are capable of beating up Frieza or some Super Saiyans? Despite the franchise being about strength and people fighting and powering up, making someone with a high power level isn't really as significant as many of these other incredible achievements that we've seen throughout the course of the story. And one can only imagine that if Dr. Gero were to take this technology and apply it to the other humans and the other alien species, just how incredibly powerful they could have become. Maybe even making Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien, or even Chaozu, comparable to Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and all of the strongest fighters that we see introduced. Which is yet another topic I might discuss in a video in the future, because it is one of the more intriguing what-ifs when it comes to this franchise. And then of course, all of this also gets worked into Cell, the completely bio-organic android that was created by Dr. Gero and his computer, using the cells of the most powerful fighters at the time, including the Saiyans, Frieza, and his father, which most people in the audience tend to find more realistic of a threat than the other androids who were introduced before that. However, considering the fact that Dr. Gero was working on Cell for a period of time before he turned everything over to his computer, then I think it actually makes even more sense from that perspective as to how he made these androids so powerful. Because during the point in which he was trying to create the perfect organism who would be able to carry out his will and also absorb the androids into him so he could become perfect and complete, he likely found out the best way to bring out the maximum potential of each individual race who was incorporated into his creation. So I think that Cell's existence only goes even further in proving exactly how Dr. Gero was capable of doing this. Now, as far as the out-of-universe rationale goes, it's obvious that Akira Toriyama wanted to create new and more powerful villains for our characters to battle against. In order to show off just how big of a threat they were, he naturally decided to have all of them be more powerful than Frieza, the strongest adversary that everyone had faced up until that point. And of course, they also need to be more powerful than the strongest transformation at the time, of Super Saiyan, or else their level of power wouldn't really make any real difference. That's just how it goes in Dragon Ball. The new villains are almost always stronger than the last, which is kind of the easy button when it comes to creating additional drama and tension, particularly in a story full of characters whose powers are so inflated that at this point they can wipe out an entire universe with a single attack. Something that most people can't really even wrap their minds around, just considering how big a universe really is. But I think that in-universe, what we see with Dr. Gero and the power of the androids isn't really that far-fetched at all. And honestly, it ends up being better than if our heroes had simply faced off against another random alien who appears from space who's more powerful than anyone else that came before. Because at least in this case, Goku had a direct connection to the Doctor through the Red Ribbon Army, and in the titular arc that happened in the original Dragon Ball. and thus it tied better into the narrative and the themes of the story than practically every other villain that came after it, where Toriyama had to struggle to find any real connection between our hero and the antagonist, other than this guy is evil and he wants to kill people that Goku knows, and incidentally also wants to rule the universe, which I guess would be kind of a inconvenience for our heroes, especially if they raise taxes on Earth or something. So that is why Dr. Gero was able to build androids more powerful than Frieza, and even the Super Saiyans. But what do you think? Let me know your own thoughts down below. Make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.